Judge's epic performance coming after this exchange with the commander-in-chief.
You're going to win. You're going to go all the way, and you'll get in the playoff. I wish it was a little bit bigger, you know. A little bit bigger. What a big player. What a player. So you have that much muscle, you have to hit the ball further. You're a fantastic player.
I appreciate that.
Unbelievable big player. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Great to know you.
And let's hope, Yankee fans hope, the Yankees go on a big winning streak as they head to Boston. For more on the baseball talk, here's the President of the United States. Great to see you, Mr. President.
Welcome, Mr.
Well,
President.
it was like the old days. I was at the Yankee game with Randy and all of the Steinbrenners, the family, which is a great family. And George was a good friend of mine, great friend of mine, actually. And they won the game. I didn't want to go to a loser. They won. And I met the players in the morning, and then I met them. I spoke to them in the morning, and I tell you what, I met him just before the game. I said, you got to win this game. You're going to make me look bad if you don't win this game. And they were great, great. And Aaron Judge, he is some player, but he is some strong guy. He had the biggest forearms. You know, I've seen weightlifters.
Yeah.
I've never seen arms this big. And he's a fantastic person, too, so he's great. And he got up, hit 2 home runs, a single.
They're saying you're responsible for this since he shook your hand.
A lot of people, that's what they're saying.
I felt like Newt Rockney, right? You got to win this game, and they had to win that game. That's an important game for them. And they had a couple of games where they lost, and it was a big game for them. So I was very happy. And Randy Levine, the whole family has been just fantastic with me, and we had a good time, and the fans were really nice. You know, you never know what you're going to get in New York, in a New York ballpark, but we got a tremendous applause because they love the country.
Yesterday, you were at the 9/11 memorial. We were all watching that.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance was supposed to be with you. He went out to be with Charlie Kirk's family and to get the body back to his hometown in Arizona. And you said you were going to award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which was very nice of you. Any updates on this suspect?
Yeah. Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued, and we all don't get sued, and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant that was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, it's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But, yeah, I think we're in great shape.
Mr. President,
and he's in custody.
Your suspicion was that he was radical left. And now you have more information. What can you share with us about his ideology?
Yeah, Lawrence, let me just... And by the way, Lawrence is doing a good job. What's going on here?
Job. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
I said you were going to do well. Yeah, I think that I don't want to go too far. I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever, I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. But somebody close to him turned him, you know, they said, whoa. It's interesting where we had very good pictures, but not great, not perfect. And when you look at it, what happened is somebody, and this happens a lot. It happened with the crazy Boston bomber. It happened with others. Somebody that's close recognizes even a little tilt of the head, which nobody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father, went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you, based on what I'm hearing, they'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in. As I'm walking in, they said, looking real good. They have the person that they wanted. So you have breaking news, don't you, huh?
Thank you.
You always have breaking news, Ainsley.
Right.
Sean's going to be very disappointed that that we're not doing it on his show.
He'll be very thankful and appreciative of the
I think
police
so.
officers that got this
I
guy.
think they did a great job. Everybody worked together. Pam Bondi is incredible, by the way. People don't know what a star she is. She's incredible. And it all worked out.
Could I ask you just some clarification? So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And they, as I understand it, and again, subject to change, but, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those questions later, because I can't tell you how accurate. The bottom line is they have somebody that they think did it.
So, Mr. President, there is the death penalty in Utah.
Yes.
And I do know this is going to be a federal case, and there's many of us believe that Charlie was targeted because of his political ideology.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to this guy?
Well, I hope he's going to be found guilty, I would imagine, and I hope he gets the death penalty. What he did, Charlie Kirk was the finest person. He didn't deserve this. He worked so hard and so well. Everybody liked him. I've been watching, even the left is having a hard time. They fired this guy, Dowd, from MSDNC, who's a terrible guy, terrible human being, but they fired him. I hear they're firing other people. And, you know, we're talking about radical left. Now, there are a little bit, but radical left networks and cable channels, horrible channels like MS. I always call it DNC because it's, you know, somehow affiliated with the Democrat National Committee. So, you know, it's a little statement you make. But MSNBC, but NBC, ABC, CBS, they're all terrible, absolutely terrible and unfair. But even they have been giving it sort of like this can't be allowed to happen.
And I just love moment of silence at the Yankee game, moment of silence at the Redskin game, Commanders game last night, because they understand this doesn't matter who you voted for. This was a special person. My opinion is that you have people, when a soldier dies, you write a personal letter, you feel it. When something happens in America, you feel it, you show up for it. I feel like with Charlie Kirk, from what I witnessed, for you, it's almost like a family member.
You know, Don said to me, he's sort of like a son to you. Charlie got involved like 11 years ago, I think. He started, you know, he's a brilliant guy, but he didn't go to college. He actually started in college. He was so bored that he left. He would have done very well in college if he wanted to, but he was brilliant. I always said, you know, can you get a degree because you're sort of used to having people like you went to college, right? Yeah. But he just didn't have the patience to do it. And he started this really during what would normally be college, maybe even sooner than that, but what would normally be college. And it's become a movement. And, you know, I won youth. A Republican never wins youth, but I won youth. I will tell you, TikTok helped me, but he helped me with TikTok. But he helped me with youth. I've never seen a person who's, in this case, older than the people we're talking about, you know, in many cases. I've never seen young people or any group go to one person like they did to Charlie. He'd go out to Arizona, to any school, to Utah, where he was, but any school, also East Coast, anywhere. And he would have bigger rallies than any radical left speaker. And it was killing them because he'd have 5,000 people show up, 10,000 people show up. They'd go and they'd have 50 people, but they talk big league, right? Now, he was an unbelievable talent, but he was more, it wasn't really so much a talent. He just really believed it. He just believed it. He loved young people. He wanted to help young people. And he didn't deserve this. He was truly a good person.
Do you think it's important for people to see how he died? I think that's to see the horrific. Did you see it?
I didn't watch. I didn't want to watch. I heard about it.
You don't want to watch.
I would have never made a good doctor. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I heard enough. I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to remember Charlie that way. But yeah, it's horrific, is what I hear. Just horrific. I hear that nobody can. I know friends that were there, and they told me. They said what we witnessed. the physical emotion of being there, you know, or watching it on television. He was somebody that I always said he was very talented, but you know, when you love something so much, it's almost not even talent. It's that you do it well because you like it. It's a passion. And he had a passion for this. I spoke to his wife yesterday. She's like devastated.
Of course.
But in between the devastation, they want to keep Turning Point going. Because so many people called in to me with donations. They went, I don't know who, do we give donations to her? Do we give it to Turning Point? Do we give it to, you know, any one of the hundreds of colleges that he worked with or universities? And they want to keep Turning Point going. They think they can do it. He had a very good staff, I noticed. You know, Charlie would call me up. I'm president of the United States, and I get a call like a day before. Sir, could you come to Arizona tomorrow? I said, Charlie, I'm president. I can't just come. He said, it's so important. Could you play? And I'd usually try and get there. You know, he's the only one.
20,000.
Yeah, he was such a great guy that he had to end this way. But, you know, in many ways, he's bigger now because of what happened. He was really big, important, and I guess this doesn't help his family very much when I say this, but in terms of, you know, very, very important, getting that such a good word, such a solid word. You know, we have so many bad people, so many bad philosophies, ideologies, politics. His was basically just good. Family, he talked about family, he talked about get married, go get married. You know, it sounds old-fashioned when you think about it, but he's right. He was just on. And it's a shame that that voice has been stopped. But I think from what I see, you know, I got to know a lot of his people. He had great people, and that includes his wife. She's very talented. He said she's the best writer he's ever seen. You know, she's a writer, among other things. So maybe they can really keep it going.
So, Mr. President, was it a one-off? Was this guy that assassinated Charlie?
It seems to be.
He wasn't a part of a bigger network or anything that we know
you
of?
don't know. I mean, you don't know. I hear these people talking so badly about me and others. I'm a guy that just wants to make America great again. You know, we want to look at what we did in D.C. We took D.C., probably the single worst place in the country in terms of crime. There's no crime. It's a crime-free area. I went to dinner the other night, stood out in the middle of the street, did interviews with you guys, but I did interviews right in the middle of the street. If I did that 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have about a 30% chance of being here to talk about it.
We're getting shouted down.
And you know, it's amazing. D.C. is now a great safe. Now we're fixing it up physically, too. We're putting in new medians. We're going to give everything a little coat of asphalt so we don't have potholes all over. You know, filling a pothole is fine temporarily, but they'd fill a pothole and never touch it for 10 years.
Right.
You know, old potholes don't look good. We're going to fix it up. We're going to make it beautiful at a very minimal cost. And we're going to have the most beautiful capital in the world. But even more importantly than that, it's very safe. People would come from Iowa, they'd come from Indiana, and their son would be killed. They'd be killed. And now you can come and you can enjoy. I was very embarrassed because I had the president of Poland in, and they started asking me about D.C. a couple of weeks ago. And I said, we're very proud of the fact that nobody's been killed this week. And he looks at me like, you know, head of Poland. He says, whoa, is that? And he said, well, and I'm telling the press, you know, they're doing the little thing in the Oval Office, our great Oval Office, our very upgraded Oval. And the press is asking me, well, what about that? He said, we haven't had anybody killed in the last 3 weeks. And it's been like 9 years since nobody's been killed. Every week, somebody's been killed for years. And we haven't had crime. And they said it's down 87%. I said, what about the 13%? You know, why wouldn't it be? It's down 100%. Right. So you'd be very proud of your capital. You can go there now. And by the way, business is booming. Restaurants are booming. And this all took place within, we really did it in 12 days. But now it's better. You know, each day it becomes even better.
Mr. President, what do you say to the families that are watching, the moms, dads, that we've heard so much negative news with the lady being killed on the train,
terrible.
Right? And then we have Charlie Kirk. We had a school shooting the other day. And those are just 3 big events that happened in the last few days. So, or that we learned about. The girl was killed
in the attempts on your life?
Yes.
Well, one thing I do say, I mean, look, we have that maniac has gone through trial right now with a fantastic judge. That was the judge that realized that deranged Jack Smith was deranged, okay? She's a phenomenal judge. I don't know her. I appointed her. but I don't know her at all in Florida. And she's a, really talented person, brilliant judge. And by coincidence, she got that case. And, he's like a wise guy, troublemaker, it seems. But we have to have, for like the person that killed the young girl, she was like a beautiful girl, 22, 23 years old. And, when she got onto that train, you could see that she just wanted to hide. Even before this happened, she almost like snuck on. She didn't want to make anything. She just wanted to be. She was afraid.
Finished her job.
No, she was afraid. But if you look at her before the way she sort of like she wanted to and she's looking at her phone like this, she felt very unsafe. Okay, we can't have that. And then this maniac gets up from behind. That's another one I didn't want to watch. I didn't watch it. I knew what happened, but I didn't want to watch it. And what he did to her was unbelievable. And then he walks through, the knife is dripping blood and everything else. One thing I say, we have to have quick trials.
Yeah.
I call it quick trial, because in China, they do have quick trials, They don't wait 6 years and
you
claim
start
all
off guilty
sorts
and
of
you end up
reason.
guilty in China.
Oh, it's terrible. What happens here is you go through 7, 8 years, and by the time it ends, and then they say, well, he had a reason to do it because he wasn't treated right in grade school, and it's his teacher's fault, and it's the government's fault. That guy they should have a trial the following day, as far as.
But do you know that they said?
I mean, when you have somebody on tape, here's a guy on tape getting ready to, and then he did his thing. The whole thing is on tape. This should not be going on. This trial will go on. It'll start in 2, 3, 4 years. We have to have, in certain places that do it differently, they have what's called quick trial. You have a fast trial, a fast verdict.
Right.
Now, if he's guilty, we're going to have to keep him, feed him, take care of him for, let's say he's 28 or 29 years old, I understand. So, like for 50 years, we're going to be feed.
But he never should have been let out.
Now, in Utah, he shouldn't have been let out. And the judge should be responsible for that, the way she did it. But in Utah, they have the death penalty. And you have a very good governor there. The governor, I've gotten to know him. The governor is very intent on the death penalty in this case, and he should be. In North Carolina, you also have it, but we have to make sure that happens. That was a horrific crime.
But I think Ainsley's point is in the big picture. What do you say to people who are saying they see the assassination attempts in your life, they see the Minnesota lawmakers, they see what happened, they see what happened to Charlie, and they're saying, what's going on with the political process? Now, instead of trying to get votes, you're trying to survive. There are lawmakers canceling their events this weekend, AOC on the left and a lot of lawmakers on the right saying, I'm a little concerned about doing a public event. As president, what do you tell them?
I say you have to go forward. You just have to go forward. You watch, as closely as you can. You have, I have great people. I mean, I have people now much better and far more. When I was hit in Butler, they wouldn't, it was Biden, but they wouldn't approve. We had 55,000 people. We had, we get these tremendous crowds, and I'd have far fewer people than Biden who'd go out. He had many more Secret Service people than me, and he'd have like 8 people show up, but I have 55 or 60,000 people show up. Butler's a great example of that. And we have great people right now. We had a thing happen that's very big. People don't even talk about it. We won a lot of great decisions. The Supreme Court, I give them a lot of credit. We have a decision on merit. In other words, this country is now a country of merit. You don't have to be a woman or a man or a this or a that.
Give me the best person.
You don't have to be white or black or Asian or whatever it is. It's all based on merit now. And I wasn't sure if anybody would have the courage to make that decision. That was a big, big decision. When you go down to Washington and you see these people, they happen to be strong soldiers. They're big and strong. They don't mind fighting, as opposed to somebody that really isn't equipped to do that weighs perhaps 100 pounds.
And has a third nationality or sexuality.
Correct. You can say it. I'd rather not say it. I want to see. But it's based on merit. You hire people now based on merit. That's the way the country got great. And I give so much credit to the Supreme Court for that. So with some of these people, though, we're going to have to do, the politicians are one thing, and we can talk about that, but we have to have trials that go quickly.
Okay.
We can't have a trial. like this guy, we can't have a trial that's going to start in 3.5 years from now.
But he's only one. That was political violence. The Democrats don't want the National Guard there because they say they belong in war zones. But our cities, Chicago, 6 people shot over the weekend, killed. The weekend before that, 11 more.
And that's a good weekend.
Right. This is happening in every major city. There's a lunatic that's on the street that some Soros DA that is allowed out. What's going to happen?
So I think maybe I'll be the first to say it right now again. We're going to Memphis. Memphis is...
That's the next city.
Deeply troubled. And the mayor is happy. He's a Democrat mayor. The mayor is happy. And the governor, Tennessee, the governor is happy. Deeply troubled. We're going to fix that just like we did Washington. I would have preferred going to Chicago. I had a man in the head of a big railroad. They're doing a merger, and he wanted to come see me and all that stuff. And I asked him, because, you know, it's one of the largest train companies, maybe the largest, so you can figure out who it is, okay, Union Pacific. And he was in my office, and he started off 45 years ago with the railroad. It's such a great story. Sir, I'm a railroader. That's the kind of guy that should ride it, you know, as opposed to a Wall Street guy that destroys the railroad, but he's good financially, right? And he was a very impressive guy. And I said, so what do you think? Where should we go next as a city? Because we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do a few at a time. But we're going to straighten out the crime in these cities. He said, sir, Memphis would be good because he's on the board of FedEx. He said, when I walk 1 block to my hotel, they won't allow me to do it. They put me in an armored vehicle with bulletproof glass to take me 1 block. He said, it's so terrible. I said, let me ask you a question. So we're going to Memphis. I'm just announcing that now, and we'll straighten that out.
National Guard?
The National Guard and anybody else we need. And by the way, we'll bring in the military, too, if we need it. But National Guard. But Memphis is, look, it's a great music city. It's, you know, home of Elvis and everything else. But I said to him, where else should we go? Where would you say? He said, sir, please do me a favor. St. Louis has been so badly hit. It's very hard, very, very hard. He said, don't lose Chicago. You're going to lose Chicago, sir. It's a great city. You're going to lose Chicago. And then we have this Slav Pritzker on television every day. All he does is hit Trump. I said, does he realize last weekend he had 11 people killed and 28 wounded?
It doesn't bother him. He says he's got the situation handled.
And he keeps saying, we have no crime problem. The week before, he had a week where he had 72 people injured and like 11 died. But if he does 5, like you just said, 5, that's a good week. Every weekend, they're losing many people. It's out of control. But when this guy, who's a smart guy, you know, he heads the biggest railroad, he said, the way he said it, he said, sir, please don't lose Chicago. We are about to lose Chicago. It's a great city. You can save Chicago.
You had a decision in San Francisco that said you're not allowed to use the National Guard, the military in California, and you're waiting for that decision on the appeal. Does that...
We've been winning all those decisions. We just won one against Newscomb.
You're waiting for it, and a lot of people think that it's just a matter of time, but you're appealing it. Are you waiting for that appeal to go your direction so you can put the National Guard and don't have to worry about the courts telling them to
We're really not. We think we're going to win all of them, and we have been winning all, and we just won one against Gavin Newsom, who's been terrible. Look, if we didn't go into L.A. a few months ago, you wouldn't have the Olympics there. They lost 25,000 houses to fires because they didn't have the water come down from the Pacific Northwest. They have a lot of water, but they send it out into the Pacific to protect a little tiny fish, right? Which did very badly when it didn't have any water, by the way. Right. But just the whole thing is so crazy. You wouldn't have lost any houses. You would have had a fire. They would have had sprinklers going. They would have had fire hydrants. But they lost 25,000 houses. Now they want to build low-income housing where many of those houses were. I don't know if you heard this. Yeah. This came in last week. Nobody's got their permits. The federal government, Lee Zeldin's incredible. He got, and they're much tougher permits. Everybody's permitted in California, in Los Angeles. Everybody has a permit to build their house, to rebuild their house, except the city and the state haven't given the permits. It's a long time now. And the people want to build. But now Newsom,
what's the reason?
It's environmental.
Because they're just incompetent. No, but it's really they're incompetent. They could avoid the virus. My environmental is much tougher than his. Everybody had it within 30 days. This is now over a year, and these people are standing outside the house. They want to rebuild the house. But in my opinion, even worse, they now want to take a large section and they want to build low-income housing there in a very high-income
Pacific
area.
Palisades.
It's unfair. I mean, it's unfair to the people. And, you know, they want to be politically correct, so they're seething inside, but they want to be politically correct, so they don't want to say
That's
it.
every city, Mr. President. I know they
Not every
reject
city.
the politicians.
Yeah, it's a
reject
lot
it,
of cities,
but
yeah.
you got Chicago and all these other cities
Yeah.
that say the people we interview them. They say they want the National Guard. They want safety. Memphis, they
The
want
people
it.
want
So
it.
why not just go anyway?
The Democrats don't want it. Look, almost every city that's in trouble is run by Democrats. Cashless bail is a disaster. When they came out with that, and I think it started in New York, I have to tell you, but when they came out with, so somebody kills somebody and the judge says, all right, come back to trial in 10 years and, you know, go out, and then he goes out and kills somebody else. Cashless bail has to be ended immediately. Sanctuary cities are a disaster, but it's a Democrat. There are a couple of bad Republican places, and we'll fix them up. By the way, the Republicans want me to come in there so badly.
Louisiana,
New Orleans.
But well, the governor of Louisiana, that's the other thing we could fix up.
Orleans.
I could fix that up in a week and a half. New Orleans is really in bad shape, and the governor wants us to go in. We'll do that, too. But Chicago's a major city, and when that person told me, smart guy, sir, please, he was almost like, you know, as somebody that loves the country, and he knows every city. The railroad stops in all these cities. He knows the good, the bad. He said, sir, some are too far gone. He said, don't lose Chicago, sir. You're about to lose Chicago. He means lose it permanently. That's what's going to happen. I can fix Chicago, much bigger than D.C., but we can bring in the military. We can bring in the National Guard. We'll do what we have to do. You know, the people in D.C. are so happy. They bring coffee to the National Guard.
Mr. President, now the 30 days is up. And does everything, is there
Well, the mayor's asked us to stay.
Well, how do you-
So we have a Democrat mayor who's
want-
asked us to stay. And D.C.'s a little bit different because I could federalize it if I want. You know, D.C.'s a little bit different. So we have a lot. We have actually more power in D.C. because it's, you know, I can change the mayor if I want. I can do whatever I want. I haven't had to. We've had a great relationship with the mayor. We've had a great relationship. Everybody's happy. And the mayor was not in favor of it. At first we, you know, forced, and then she saw the results. And everyone's going up and thanking her. We have no crime anymore. People that were afraid to leave, they have themselves locked in their house. And by the way, they have guns to protect themselves. If they didn't have guns, you know, the bad guys know that Mrs. Jones, who's 85 years old, is sitting in a chair with a gun in her hand, and they leave her alone, okay? If she didn't have a gun, they wouldn't leave her alone. But D.C. is a great example. The mayor is a very liberal person, was not in favor of this, and now all of a sudden she's being praised by the people in the community. Everybody wants, who doesn't want it to happen? Like in Chicago, if you took a poll, do you want to have no crime, or do you want to walk outside and get mugged or killed? I mean, they're losing 6, 7, 8, 9 people every week, and 30 or 40 are being shot. That's worse than Afghanistan. That's worse. There's no city like that. You know, we hear about places like, oh, Afghanistan's so terrible. They don't have anything like that. When I had to tell in front of the president of Poland, the press, you know, we had one of the media scrums, and they're screaming and everything. We're in the Oval Office, and I had to say, I'm pleased to report that nobody was shot, nobody was killed this week. And he's like, is that good? I mean, he's like, what are you talking? No, they don't have people shot every week, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a different thing. We're doing great. We'd love to save Chicago. We don't want to go into a hostile. By the way, the people will greet us.
Right.
But, you know, they have professional agitators. They're professional.
They're paid.
I had one the other night. I went into a restaurant, and this woman stood up. I looked at her immediately. She had money. She wasn't serious. They get paid for it. They're professional, from Soros and other people. And we're going to look into Soros because I think it's a RICO case against him and other people. Because this is more than like protests. This is real agitation. This is riots on the street. And we're going to look into that.
What do we do about our country with that? Because we have radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone, they want open borders. The worst thing that happened to this country, because I've already solved inflation, costs are down. Look at energy costs. You're going to have $2 gasoline pretty soon. I've solved just about every problem. The worst thing that happened to our country is when we let 25 million people in, many of which, and I say 80%, should not be in our country. They emptied their prisons into our country. They emptied their mental institutions, insane asylums. You don't know what that is. That's seriously, you know what that is? A mental institution on steroids, okay? They emptied out insane asylums, crazy people, into our country by the millions. And it's it's the hardest thing. We have a border now that's totally secure. Nobody came in. Think of that. They actually announced nobody. We used to have millions of people come in. Nobody came in. And we back up the border with the military. We've done a great job. But the worst thing that happened to our country is to allow millions of people in from jails, mental institutions, drug dealers.
Right.
They threw them all into our country. And these stupid people, and some of them are stupid in terms of common sense, but they're brilliant in other ways. Biden wasn't calling the shots. It was the geniuses that surrounded, radical left geniuses that surrounded him on the, unfortunately, he used the Resolute desk. That's the one I used. I hated that he used it, but he used it. But they called the shots, and he didn't do anything. Look at what happened. The auto pen signed everything. He wasn't aware of anything that was being signed. It's so illegal.
Let out killers from prison, and he doesn't even know it.
They took the unselect committee that, investigated stuff. It found out that we were right on everything. They burned all the information because we were right on everything. Nancy Pelosi knew. I told her, I said, I'll give you 10,000 troops, January 6th. I'll give you 10,000 troops if you'd like. No, we don't want them. Oh, well, they found out that was true. They found out it was true. They burned everything. And Biden gave them a pardon. He gave these people on the committee, Congress people, he gave them a pardon. And it's so what they did, what he did to this country will live in infamy.
So, Mr.
What he did is, and I say, Lawrence, I say what he and his people, because he was up sleeping most of the time, he should not have been president.
But Mr. President, I remember we talked to you the next day after they tried to assassinate you, the first time. And it changed you. And you talked about your faith and how the American people, they're shaken this morning over Charlie Kirk, the school shootings that are happening. Yeah. What do you say to those people that are hurting this morning?
Well, I tell politicians, and I have a lot of friends that are Democrats. There are some normal Democrats, too, not too many. But I have some friends, and I've been called by Democrats, everything else. They're equally concerned also. Yeah. It's them, too. They don't want to go out in a public space and start. And I say something pretty simple. You got to do it. You got to protect as much, but you got to do it. I have the advantage of having hundreds of guys around me, as president, but they don't have that advantage. They could be a congressman, or they could be, look at Steve Scalise, a great guy. Look what happened to him. If he didn't have those two very brave people around, he would have been, they would have all been killed. All those congressmen would have been killed. But you had three of them badly hurt, and Steve was really badly hurt. I really say, I'm a little bit of a fatalist, I guess. I say, got to do your thing. Or get out of the business and go into something else. It's a dangerous business. And frankly, it always has been. It always has been. My job's very dangerous. If you would have told me this, maybe I wouldn't have done it, Brian. If Brian would have called me up, it's interesting. You look at the stats on presidents, it's the most dangerous career you can have.
Right.
Kennedy, Lincoln, McKinley, you can go down the list. But I chose to do it. I love doing it because we're going to make America great again. It's happening. So look at the stock market. We've had the stock market hitting record highs every day. Never been higher. People, last night at the Yankee game, the cops are coming over to me. I love the police here. I love them all over the place, frankly. Sir, you've made me look like a genius. My wife finally respects me. My 401k is through the roof. He said, I've never had, she thinks I'm a financial genius. I made him into a financial genius.
By the way, we just got word there's going to be a press conference at 9 o'clock. Kash Patel is going to be there, I guess, to give more details on what you told us, and that is we got the guy. You guys got the guy, and he's in custody, and he's alive. And he was turned in by friends and families confirmed it. So is the message to the right, the people that are going to go, I want revenge, not to have revenge? Charlie Kirk would not want revenge.
You want revenge at the voter
That's where to go.
But unfortunately, we don't have so many ballot boxes because they have mail-in voting, which is totally rigged. Okay. You know, there are a lot of problems. I like ballot boxes where they do mail-in voting all over the place, which is rigged. Anytime, Jimmy Carter, they had a commission. He said, anytime you have mail-in voting, it's a crooked election, okay? And they got to stop. But I say, so I can't really say the ballot box because in some cases, like California, doesn't have ballot boxes. They send out 38 million ballots. Nobody knows where the hell they're going. Then they come back. Democrats get more than Republicans.
Right.
It's so unfair, the system, and we're going to fix this system.
What are you going to do about President Putin? Because we just saw these drones in Poland.
Yeah, well,
more sanctions.
Thing, I mean, I'm not going to defend anybody, but the Poland's, they were actually knocked down and they fell into an area. But you shouldn't be close to Poland anyway.
Right.
So I solved, as you know, 7 wars. 7. I did so many, including Pakistan and India, but big ones. Some were unsolvable. Congo and Rwanda. I solved it. It was going on for 31 years. Millions of people killed. I solved wars that was unsolvable. Azerbaijan and Albania. It was going on for many, many years. I had the prime ministers and presidents in my office. They sat so far apart. One chair was there, one chair was there. I said, fellas, get together, come on. He said, you know, I've been fighting. The one said, both great guys, that said, I've been fighting for 22 years. I've been killing his people for 22 years. He's been in there for 22 years. The other one's in there for 7 years. He said, for 7 years, I've been killing their people. I say, let's hug and make up. And anyway, we solved the problem. They said it was unsolved. I did 7. I thought the easiest one was going to be Ukraine and Russia.
But the problem is really Vladimir Putin. You talked to him in Alaska.
Yeah, I did.
He has picked up the pace of the bombing.
Look, there's tremendous hatred between him and Zelensky. Tremendous. It's, I've seen it before.
But Zelensky says I'm
seen...
coming to the table.
Well,
Zelensky
now he does. No, now
True.
he does. He wasn't coming to the table so quickly. You remember the famous...
So has your patience run out with Putin?
Yeah, it's sort of running out and running out fast. But it does take 2 to tango. It's amazing. When Putin wants to do it, Zelensky didn't. When Zelensky wanted to do it, Putin did. Now Zelensky wants to, and Putin is a question mark. But we're going to have to come down very, very strong. It's the only one. This is the one, because I've always had a great relationship with Putin. This is the only war that I haven't solved. Now, let's get into Gaza, because that's another one. So those are 2 that are...
Before you move on, can I ask you,
complex.
what is clamping down on Vladimir Putin?
Well, it'll be hitting very hard with sanctions to banks and having to do with oil and tariffs also. But I've already done it. I've done a lot. Look, India was their biggest customer. I put a 50% tariff on India because they're buying oil from Russia. That's not an easy thing to do. That's a big deal. And it causes a rift with India, you know. And remember this is a Europe problem much more than our problem. The other thing I've done, Brian, and I know how you feel and very strongly about it, and I understand a lot of people do it, a lot of people don't, frankly. But we were spending $350 billion on a war that was across the ocean. Europe was spending $100 billion. It's still a lot of money, but it should have been equalized, at least equalized, or they should have spent more. But I did something. As you know, I went to NATO, great relationship with all of those NATO countries, and I got them to raise from 2% to 5%. And then I got them to pay for anything that all of our costs now are being paid by NATO. So NATO is very, you know, they're rich countries, and they're now paying. We're sending missiles and things to NATO. NATO's paying us, and they're distributing to where they want, which is, in this case, Ukraine.
Mr. President.
Which is a big saving. That's a big difference. We're not spending. But you know what I want to do? I want to stop it for a different reason. Because now, I guess you could say we make money. I don't want to make money, but we're making money because But I want to stop because they're losing 6,000 to 7,000 soldiers every single week. And they're not American soldiers. They're Russian and Ukrainian soldiers and some people in the towns. But the big numbers are the soldiers. They're losing. Last week, they lost 7,018 soldiers. A little bit more Russia than Ukraine. But they both, they've lost 1.5 million soldiers fighting back and forth. I want to stop it on a human basis. Their souls, they're Russian souls, they're Ukraine. They're not American.
Yeah.
But I just feel I have an obligation to do it. And that was the one I thought was going to be the easiest of the 7.
Right.
And that turned out to be the toughest.
But you got another one.
But I'll get it done.
You got Hamas, and you already given them one final warning. They've rejected every single offer.
Yeah.
They're upset, and Qatar is upset, but they have terrorists in their country right now. Yeah. What are you going to do? You already gave them the final warning.
So you remember this, when I got involved, it was a mess. Biden left us a mess in everything. The economy, inflation, everything was, he was the worst president we've ever had in this country. His administration was grossly incompetent and radical left, by the way. Radicals. They don't even think of it as, they thought open borders were great when people pour in from jails. He left us a mess. We're going to get that fixed. We're going to get it fixed. But remember one thing, I'm the one that got the hostages back. Steve Witkoff has done a great job. We have Adam Bowler. I don't know if you know Adam Bowler. He's a guy, all he wants to do, he's a rich guy. I was going to put him in charge of a massive fund. He had any job he wanted. He only wants to work on getting hostages back. We've got 67 hostages back, and we don't pay any money. Biden would pay $6 billion for 5 hostages, and they'd get more than we would. But they were always getting like $6 billion. The money was so crazy. And, when you do that, then you're going to have a lot of problems because they're going to go and they're going to keep kidnapping people. But we're going to get it solved. But remember, I'm the one that got all the hostages out. I got them out. Unfortunately, you got a lot of dead people, too. You got a lot of dead. They killed. It's a ruthless group of people. I told Hamas, we want our hostages back. We want those hostages back. Now, we have all the Americans back, but now I'm talking about hostages, mostly Israeli. Right. But, of the hostages back, so there's 20, but there could be a couple dead in the recent days. But there are 20. But there's also 34 that are dead. And we want them back. The parents called me, and they, I got very close to a lot of these people. Can you get my son back? I said, oh, how's he doing? Sir, he's dead, but they have his body. Can you get him back? You have no idea what I go through. They want that body back just as much as though he were alive. Mm-hmm. Every bit as much. They want the body back. And I'm getting him back. We got him back. We got every hostage you saw that came out, we got them back. And we've done a good job, but I said, we're not doing the 2, give me 2 this week and another 3 the next week, and over a period of time. And I always said, those final 20 or 10 are going to be tough. We have 20. But I said, those final are going to be very, very tough. Let's see what happens. I told Hamas, you got to give us the hostages back.
And they're not.
Well, we're going to find out.
What about interest rates? Because we're hoping Jerome Powell lowers the interest rate this month. If he doesn't, and you get to appoint someone, is it next May?
Yeah.
Who would you appoint, and what do you expect?
We have somebody that shouldn't be there. We're going to see how that all works out, too. A Democrat that really shouldn't be there, did bad things. But I call him Too Late. His nickname is Too Late, okay? Jerome Powell. Jerome Too Late Powell. Too late on the interest rate. It's always late, except when it came to a Democrat, because before the election, he dropped the interest rates to try and help Kamala Harris, I guess. I assume that's why, because he shouldn't have dropped the interest rates then. He should have dropped. But he's a year late. And despite that, we have the best economy we've ever had. We have the best stock market we've ever had. In other words, what we've created is so strong. We have $17 trillion going to be invested in this country. Think of it. They didn't have, they had nothing. They had people leaving our country. We have the greatest boon in the history, and that's why the stock market went up 700 points yesterday.
Inflation is down. Inflation's
down. Well, I have low inflation. Yeah. He had the highest inflation in history.
Up to 9, yeah.
No, he had really, in many things, 18, 19, 20%. He had the worst inflation in the history of our country. And we have almost no inflation anymore. And if you look at energy, energy is so big, it brings everything down. But if you look at energy, the energy costs are way down. we've done a great job, despite the fact that we should have lower interest rates. Now, we have two things. We've been successful because of the tariffs. It's given us a great power to negotiate with other countries that took advantage of us. Tremendous power. Also, it's brought in trillions of dollars into our country. We have a big case brought by foreign governments because the foreign governments have been ripping us off for years, and it's now in the Supreme Court. That case is really important to win because it's made us a rich country. It's made us a rich country because I don't want to call it retribution, but we've been ripped off.
Trying to rebalance.
We've been ripped off for years by countries and by having presidents that were not smart in a business sense. I'm not saying they were good politicians, but they were stupid businessmen. They allowed the world to rip us off. If we don't, that Supreme Court case is so important. And frankly, this economy, if we win the tariff case, which we should on the legal merits, but on common sense merit, we would have to give back trillions of dollars
to these countries.
What do
Can you
do
imagine?
all those deals?
We would have to give back trillions and trillions of dollars because we got it because of tariffs. That case is one of the most important cases in the history of our country.
What do you do if we lose that case?
Well, I don't want to talk about it. I mean, I guess we'll find something, but it would be a very tough thing to lose that case. It's a totally legal case. It's good. What we did is right. The president has the power to impose tariffs. And for national security reasons, for everything, we've become a rich country. Remember 2 months ago, they said, we found $29 billion, a lot of money. We found, but peanuts compared to that, but they found $29 billion, sir. We don't know where it is. I said, where did it come from? They said, we just don't know. I said, check the tariff shelf. I call it the tariff shelf because the money is so ridiculous. It's enormous. They called me up the next morning. Sir, you're right. It came in from additional tariffs. $29 billion. We're a rich, powerful country. And when we're rich, we can do more things for the people.
So Senator John Thune this morning says he believes that Chuck Schumer wants to shut the government down, along with Hakeem Jeffries. They signal they will not vote for a clean short-term government funding package. How does President Trump deal with the government?
Well, we have to get Republican votes, that's all. If we do, we have the majority, so we have to get
But don't you have to get 60, don't you?
No, we're going to do a probably continuing resolution, or we're going to do something. So we're going to do something that... Here's the problem. The Democrats they're sick. There's something wrong with them. Schumer is, at the end of the rope. He's going to be defeated in the next election. If you gave them every dream right now, every dream that they want to give away money to this and that, destroy the country. If you gave them every dream, they would not vote for it. That's how bad. I told them, don't even bother dealing with them. We will get it through because the Republicans are sticking together for the first time in a long time. Look, we got I call it the great, big, beautiful bill. That has tax cuts for the middle class. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. You work overtime.
We haven't felt that yet.
You're going to feel it really big. I'll tell you, the biggest thing right now, we have to win the Supreme Court case. If we win that case, this country is a rocket ship like no other country ever in the history of our world.
They're not confirming your appointments either.
They're
holding them down.
But I'm going to get it done because we're not going to be doing something that they want. They want something very badly, and I won't tell you what it is yet. You'll figure it out pretty soon. But we're not going to be doing that. So I'm fine. We got 200 people that left their jobs in order to come into the administration. And the Democrats are blocking and some of them are great. If I had George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, they came back from the dead, and they wanted to go into the administration, Schumer would not approve them.
They're doing a nuclear option, right? They're going to put about over 100 through.
We have some things that are very powerful that in many ways you'd like not to do it, but I'm okay. I'm okay. These are obstructionists. These are agitators and obstructionists, the Democrats. Now, I hope it gets back. In the old days, a long time ago, it sort of started with Obama, you want to know the truth. There was a level of unbelievable hatred. And Bush, I was not a big fan of Bush, as you probably know, and you are, so I'm not going to get into an argument.
Really good.
We don't have to, but I'm a much better golfer than he is, at least. But you know what?
I think he'd agree with that.
Everybody agrees with that. But let me just say, our country is doing great. A year ago, we had a dead country. It was a dead, embarrassing country. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Mr. President, see these buildings? A lot of them in New York City you built.
I do.
That's called capitalism, not socialism. We have Mom Donnie, who is ahead in the polls here. What's your reaction?
It's amazing.
It's up by 20.
I call him my little communist. He's my little communist mayor. But, you know, he has to come to Washington for money, a lot of money. And it's amazing. I was so surprised by this. Even the other two candidates, I mean, you know, you look at the candidates. Now, maybe one-on-one somebody could beat him, and I'm not looking at the polls too carefully, but it would look like he's going to win. And that's a rebellion. It's also a rebellion against bad candidates, okay? It's a rebellion. They're tired of it. You know, they're seeing things happening. We have taxes being put on us in New York by Democrats that are so bad that even the Democrats are revolting. It's not possible for a Democrat to lose.
Right.
I did, you know, in the presidential election, I did great in New York. I did great, you know, considering it's New York.
Considering it's New York.
I mean, I did great. But there's a lot of question on the voters, you know, on the booths and everything else on the votes. But we should never be in a position where we're talking about a communist. Now, a communist running...
Doesn't like capitalism.
Running what could be, because it's, you know, so badly run. But what could be... I'll tell you, if I were mayor of New York, it would be the greatest city in the world so fast.
Are you going to get more involved?
Because we have such great cops. You know, I looked at the police, New York's finest last night. They all wanted my picture, autographs. They beat the hell out of my hand. My hand is like a wounded warrior. They shake, and they're strong as hell, the police. Some of these guys that...
Oh, yeah.
They're taking, you know, it's based on merit again. So now they're very strong. When they shake your hand, and some of them are crying because they never cried. When they were born, they didn't cry, but now they're crying because they love our country. They love me, and you know, they know it's law and order and stuff that like they want common sense. Sir, may I shake your hand? May I please shake your hand? And they're crying, and they're shaking my hand. I'm saying,
but here's why that really matters, to Ainsley's question, is because he's not pro-police. Mm-hmm. He's pro-social worker, just sending them out there. And if those cops aren't back, they're not going to do their job. So you got Cuomo, Sliwa, and Adams. Are you calling for those three to drop out?
Well, I think they have to have one candidate.
One stay.
And it would look to me like Cuomo, frankly, is leading the other two. And look, I'm a Republican, but Curtis is not exactly primetime, you know. He wants cats to be in Gracie Mansion. He wants to open it up as a kid. That's the home, for those that don't know.
He's a good crime fighter.
The magnificent home of the mayor. It's beautiful. Gracie Mansion, to me, is like a fabled place. If you're in New York, no, we don't need to have thousands of cats.
He didn't want cats to eat the rats.
It looks like, look, Cuomo, you know, you have a weather person here who I happen to think is wonderful. And I just told Janice, I said, you know, you are responsible because of her level of passion about what happened with her parents-in-law was so incredible against Cuomo that really brought them down. Janice, I hope you're watching because I'm saying it with respect, but that brought Cuomo down. Her level of passion, you know, what he did with the nursing homes, it was so horrible. Yeah, but nobody had the impact that Janice Dean had. Mm-hmm. I used to watch, and she'd be doing the weather, and then she'd start talking about him. And she was very emotional about it. She definitely loved them. You know, their parents-in-law, as I understand it, but she definitely loved them. And that was brutal for Cuomo. He seems to be leading by a little bit, but he's still way behind. It almost looks like even one candidate
wouldn't work.
At this point is not going to
Mr. President, I'm curious, because you talk about common sense. Have you had any Democrat pick up the phone and say, Mr. President, let's work together on this?
Well, I did. You know what I did? In the first term, we had the most successful economy ever. My first term was very successful. Everyone says it. I rebuilt the military, cut taxes at the highest level ever, biggest level of regulation, because it was very successful. And if you remember, just prior to COVID, and we did a great job with COVID, but COVID was COVID. The whole world had to suffer with that crazy thing. That was horrible. But we had the most successful economy ever in the history of the world. And Democrats, radical left Democrats even, were calling me and saying, could we get together? I always say, success is going to bring us together.
That's right.
There's nothing else going to bring us together. And this was the ultimate success. We were rocking and rolling, and not as much as we are right now, I'll tell you, because the stock market's now like going crazy, the 401ks, everything else. But we were doing unbelievably well. And Democrats were calling me, "Sir, I'd love to meet with you." I said, "I don't believe it. This guy." It was coming together. The only thing that's going to bring us together is tremendous success.
I understand.
And next week you go to the UK
Yeah.
for a state dinner, state visit. You and the First Lady will be there with the royal family.
And I also go to a funeral for a great gentleman
Yes.
named Charlie Kirk, who should not be having a funeral right now. He should be out there in front of people. He loved doing it. He was so good at it. And, I mean, he had a big impact on the election. You know, I got so many young voters that no Republicans ever gotten anything close. I dominated with young people, and it's never happened before. And I give him so much credit.
Because he was able to explain your policies, what you stood for.
He could explain them better than anybody. No, but he related better to young people than anybody. I've never seen anybody with any group, him with young people, I've never seen anybody relate to a group like he did.
So just to build on that, because we only have 2 minutes left.
You know, you didn't
Barron.
even have a commercial. This is very
That's how powerful you are.
Pretty important.
I'm very impressed.
That's
Saying,
true.
I wonder if they're going to have a commercial.
Yeah, if they haven't bought Prevagen
You're gonna
yet,
get-
I don't think we're going
You
to.
guys are all going to be let go by Rupert or Lachlan. Lachlan's going to let you go.
Right.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, I remember Melania's reaction when you almost got hit. And he said, I had to explain to Barron, that's his father. So what do you explain to Barron? He's almost peers. He's one of those young people that Charlie Kirk was so impressed with.
He was a tremendous fan.
What do you as a dad, and a lot of dads and moms are wondering what to say. What do you say to them?
So Barron's a very good student. And Barron came to me and he said, "Dad, I'd like to meet somebody that you know." "Who?" "Charlie Kirk." I said, "What?" You know, I thought he was going to say, "I want to meet like King Charles or something, like we're going to meet soon, right?" But he said, "Really, you want?" And I set up a lunch with him, and he came back. He said, "That guy's great, Dad. That guy's great." You know, it was cute. He's unbelievable. I don't know what it was. Charlie had a magic over the kids, and large numbers of them, and very diverse. Black, white.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody, the young women and boys, and I've never seen anything like it. And it was all good. I mean, it was good stuff. It wasn't some of the stuff you read about where they're in favor of all these horrible things. It was really good stuff. And we lost an unbelievable warrior. And I think I have a feeling that Erica, you know, I spoke to her long yesterday. She's devastated. And I said, in between the devastation, she made statements. I said, you should try and do that. Because Turning Point is a real power. And I think she may, and, you know, her group, I think they're going to
Rally around
keep it
her.
together. And you know, things like that have happened before. You make it bigger, better, stronger. I said, only do it if you're going to make it bigger and better. Can you do it? But I didn't want to talk about that too much because she can't, you know, it's going to take her a while to get better from this. It's a tough.
2 little ones.
Yeah, and beautiful, beautiful kids. But I'll never forget Barron coming back saying, "Dad, that guy's great." You know, normally he's not full of praise.
What do you tell him now?
He was very hurt when he saw this. But, I mean, everybody was. Oh, when I heard it, I was in the midst of, you know, building for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects and with design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, "Charlie Kirk is dead." I didn't know what they meant. I said, "What do you mean dead?" "Charlie Kirk was shot." And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, you know. And I said, "Dead? And it was like, I just told these people, get out, just go, this is the worst thing. This was so bad for our country. But sometimes out of really bad things can happen that can be good.
Mr. President, we got the news conference.
He is. You take the news conference.
Yeah.
He's a great man, and he's going to be more important because of what happened.
Thank
Not
you
going to
so
help
much,
his
Mr.
family.
President.
Thank you
That's
so
the way
much,
it is.
Mr. President.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
We appreciate you,
That's our
sir.
show.
Yeah.
We're going to
praying for you in your life, too.
Thank
you.
you.
Be careful.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.